So I know a lot of churches, you're engaged in feeding programs, you're working on making bags to hand to homeless people on the street. That is all great. But in addition to that, if you're not doing something to think about how do I address the systemic issue that put them there, then I'm leaving something out. I'm Dr. David Swanson, the senior pastor at First Presbyterian Church in Orlando, Florida. I've been here 13 years, and the primary need that I have faced from day one has been how to deal with the countless numbers of homeless people that have been on our steps, that are in our church on Sunday mornings, that are coming seeking money, shelter, and all the different needs that they have. It has been a constant challenge. We've done a number of things to try to meet the felt needs of the homeless. On Sunday mornings, we feed them breakfast. We lead them in a worship service. We also have spent about $1.5 million in that time frame on a downtown 1,500 square foot drop-in center. But that's the way that we've tried to deal with the problem. We didn't reduce homelessness, but we helped a lot of people, and that's always a good thing. The thing that got me every year was the annual memorial service that our church would host. And here were always more than 100 people who had died on the streets of the city that I serve, right in the middle of. And they were now deceased because somehow we couldn't get help to them. And I just had to figure out there's got to be a better way that would allow us to address the systemic issues. And so in 2013, when our city and the Commission on Homelessness began to get together to say what really are the root causes of this, and is there a solution that's going to put a homeless person in a home and take them off the streets? We wanted to be a part of that solution. We tried to solve it. We got all the downtown churches together. We were active in raising money. And in spite of all those efforts, it failed because we lacked the necessary partners. So when we were invited to be part of a conversation with business leaders and elected officials, that made all the difference in the world because we each had a contribution to make. We each had a perspective, something that we could bring to the table, and that's when the tide really started to turn. In its initial understanding, permanent supportive housing seemed to be rather off-putting to our congregation because they thought this is ridiculous, you're not requiring any change in behavior, and you're just going to give them a home. And yet when you start going beneath the surface and asking yourself some of the key questions, such as, what's actually in the best interest of this human being? When you take someone who lacks human dignity and who in their depression and in the state of their despair, they drink or they do drugs or whatever to numb that pain, when you acknowledge their worth and value and you give them a home and you set them up in a place to live, all of a sudden, they start taking better care of themselves. They want to be viewed in a different way because you've given them something they've lacked for a long time. And in its most basic spiritual sense, we're following the model and manner of Christ in providing the people who are in the lowest and most needful situations. We're giving them those basic elements of human dignity and worth by giving them shelter. That's what Christ called us to do. If someone's hungry, you feed them. When they're in prison, you visit. When they are thirsty, you give them water. When they're homeless, I think he would say, help them find housing. You think of it in terms of both and. I'm going to help meet the felt need, but I also want to work with my community, get involved with my elected officials, and figure out how can I address the systemic issues and reduce homelessness in my community.